I always thought having a twin meant having a built-in best friend for life. Instead, I got the starring role in a true crime documentary about family betrayal. My name is Olivia Hayes, and at 34, I woke up from emergency heart surgery to discover I was technically homeless. My twin sister, Emma, had sold my restored Victorian home to her boyfriend for $200,000, less than half its actual value. The house was my everything. I'd spent 5 years restoring it, pouring every spare penny and weekend into bringing the 1890s beauty back to life. While Emma chased get-rich-quick schemes and moved from boyfriend to boyfriend, I was stripping wallpaper, refinishing hardwood floors, and learning how to repair century-old windows. "You're wasting your life on that money pit," Emma would say, rolling her eyes at my paint-stained clothes and Kalu's hands. "You could be living it up like me." Living it up in Emma's world meant maxing out credit cards and dating men with expensive cars and questionable income sources. Our parents always dismissed her behavior with a fond, "That's just Emma being Emma." I should have seen it coming. 3 months before my surgery, Emma started showing unusual interest in my house. She dropped by unannounced, asking oddly specific questions about my renovation paperwork and property documents. "Just curious about the process," she'd say, photographing my filing system when she thought I wasn't looking. "Maybe I'll flip houses too." Then came the diagnosis. A congenital heart defect that had gone undetected for years suddenly became critical. I needed immediate surgery with a projected 12-hour operation time and weeks of recovery. Emma volunteered to house sit. "You focus on getting better, sis. I'll take care of everything." Our parents were thrilled. "See? Your sister does care," Mom said, misty-eyed. "You two just need to spend more time together." The day before my surgery, while helping me pack for the hospital, Emma asked the question that should have set off alarm bells. "Where do you keep your spare house key and important papers, just in case of emergencies?" I told her everything. Why wouldn't I? She was my twin, my emergency contact, the person I was supposed to trust most in the world. The surgery was successful, but recovery was brutal. I spent 2 weeks in intensive care, heavily medicated and barely conscious. Emma visited daily, always when our parents weren't around, always asking the nurses about my medication schedule and lucidity. On day 15, my neighbor Susan snuck past visiting hours, looking nervous. "Olivia, something's wrong," she whispered. "There are people moving furniture out of your house. Emma said you sold it, but I saw the buyers. It's that sketchy boyfriend of hers, Tyler." I tried to sit up, setting off every monitor in my room. "What? I didn't sell anything." The nurse rushed in, followed by my parents and Emma. My sister's face went white when she saw Susan. "What's she doing here?" "Visiting hours are over." Susan stood her ground. "Tell her what you did, Emma. Tell her how you and Tyler have been moving her things out all week." My parents looked confused. "Emma said Olivia decided to sell," Mom began. "She said the medical bills were too much. I did not sell my house." My voice was weak but furious. "I've been unconscious." Emma's face changed, a look I'd seen many times when we were kids, right before she'd convince our parents that whatever went wrong was my fault. "Olivia, you're confused from the medication," she said smoothly. "We discussed this before your surgery. You agreed selling was the smart choice. Tyler's being very generous, taking it as is." As is. I almost choked. That house is fully restored. It's worth at least $500,000. Now, Dad stepped in, using his "let's be reasonable" voice. "What's done is done. Emma's just trying to help. You can stay with us while you recover." Susan pulled out her phone. I took pictures of everything. The moving trucks, Tyler's people carrying out antiques, Emma loading files into her car. I even recorded her showing someone around the house yesterday, bragging about how easy it was to handle the paperwork while you were drugged. Emma lunged for the phone. "You had no right." A security guard appeared in the doorway, attracted by the commotion. Behind him stood my cardiologist, Dr. Weber, his face toward me. "I believe we need to contact the police," he said firmly. "I've been documenting all visitors and Mrs. Hayes's medication schedule. She was physically incapable of signing any legal documents during the time this sale allegedly took place." Emma backed toward the door. "This is ridiculous. It's a family matter. Olivia, tell them to stay out of it." "Family matter?" Dr. Weber's voice could have frozen fire. "I've seen your visits on our security footage, Miss Hayes. Always during peak medication times, always asking about your sister's mental state. That seems less like family concern and more like premeditation. My parents started their usual damage control. Let's not be hasty, Mom pleaded. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Emma probably just misunderstood. Misunderstood what? Susan cut in. How to commit fraud. How to steal from her own twin while she's fighting for her life? As security escorted my protesting sister out, Dr. Weber pulled out his phone. I have a friend in the DA's office who specializes in real estate fraud. She's going to want to see this documentation. I lay back, exhausted and heartbroken, as my perfect twin's perfect mask finally cracked. What I didn't know then was that the house sale was just the tip of the iceberg. Emma and Tyler's scheme went back much further, and my surgery had just given them the perfect opportunity to cash in. But as Dr. Weber said while calling his friend, the best evidence is often in the timing. And medical records don't lie. The investigation unfolded like a twisted jigsaw puzzle, each piece revealing a darker picture than I'd imagined. Detective Maria Sandoval specialized in real estate fraud, and within days of taking my case, she discovered a pattern that made my stolen house look like a small part of a larger scheme. Your sister and Tyler haven't just been flipping houses, she explained, spreading documents across my hospital tray table. They've been running a sophisticated fraud operation. They target properties, forge documents, and sell them to shell companies they control. My hands shook as I looked at the evidence. Properties across 3 counties, all sold under suspicious circumstances. Elderly homeowners who supposedly signed away their houses while in nursing homes. A widow who allegedly sold her home while on vacation, except she'd been in a coma. But my house was different, I said, staring at the sales contract with my forged signature. This was personal. Detective Sandoval nodded grimly. Your house was their golden ticket. A fully restored Victorian, documented improvements, all paid for. They knew its real value, and they needed a legitimate property to secure a massive loan. The loan documents showed Tyler had mortgaged my house for $450,000 the day after buying it for $200,000. The money disappeared into offshore accounts within hours. My parents visited daily, still trying to smooth things over. Emma's willing to apologize, Mom insisted. She and Tyler can take out a loan, pay you back slowly. There's no need for courts and police. Your daughter committed multiple felonies, Dr. Weber interrupted, having become a fierce advocate. This isn't about money anymore, it's about justice. Dad puffed up indignantly. Now see here, doctor. We've always handled family matters privately. Is that what you call it? I finally snapped. Handling matters privately? Like when Emma stole my college fund and you called it borrowing. Or when she took my identity to get credit cards and you said it was a misunderstanding. The room fell silent. It was the first time I'd ever thrown their enabling back in their faces. All those years of handling things privately taught Emma one lesson, I continued, my voice gaining strength. That she could take whatever she wanted, hurt whoever she wanted, and you'd help her escape consequences. My mother burst into tears, but for once I didn't feel guilty. She's your daughter, she sobbed. And what am I, Mom? Because I've been your daughter too, but you've never protected me the way you protect her. The investigation revealed more than just fraud. Emma had been laying the groundwork for months. She'd copied my documents during her curious visits, photographed my signature, and even practiced forging it. Security cameras from my local coffee shop caught her meeting with Tyler, practicing my signature on napkins. But their biggest mistake was the timing. As Detective Sandoval explained, they got greedy. By rushing to sell during your surgery, they created an airtight timeline of fraud. Hospital records show you were under anesthesia when the sale was supposedly finalized. Tyler cracked first. Faced with overwhelming evidence and multiple charges, he turned on Emma. She planned everything, he told investigators. Said it had to be during the surgery because you'd be too weak to fight back afterward. The betrayal hit harder than my surgery. My twin sister hadn't just stolen my house. She'd weaponized my illness, turned my vulnerability into an opportunity. Susan, my neighbor, became my unexpected rock. She helped the police document everything Emma and Tyler had taken from my house. Antiques, artwork, even family heirlooms I'd inherited from our grandmother. They were selling it all online, Detective Sandoval revealed. Your sister's phone had photos of your possessions listed on various auction sites, posted while you were still in surgery. My parents made one last attempt at intervention. They arrived with a handwritten note from Emma, full of excuses and vague promises of repayment. She's family, Dad pleaded. Think of what jail would do to her. I looked at them, really looked at them, and saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear, not fear for Emma, but fear of their perfect family image shattering. I am thinking of family, I replied quietly. I'm thinking of every family she and Tyler have stolen from. Every vulnerable person they targeted. When does it stop? Dr. Weber, who had stayed late to support me through this conversation, spoke up. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, your daughter committed fraud while Olivia was having life-saving surgery. She literally waited for her twin to be unconscious before stealing everything she owned. If you can't see the severity of that, you're part of the problem. As my parents left, defeated and angry, Detective Sandoval returned with news that would change everything. We found their records, she said, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. 3 years of documented fraud, including emails between Emma and Tyler discussing their plans for your house. And Olivia? They weren't planning to stop with the sale. She handed me a printed email that made my blood run cold. Emma and Tyler had discussed taking out multiple mortgages in my name, assuming I'd be too weak after surgery to notice or fight back. The nightmare was bigger than I'd imagined, but at least now I was awake to face it. 1 year later, I stood on the porch of my restored Victorian, watching the sunrise paint the gables in shades of gold. Getting my house back hadn't been easy, but justice had prevailed in ways I never expected. The trial was a media sensation. The Twisted Twin headlines splashed across newspapers, revealing how Emma and Tyler's scam had affected dozens of families. My story, The Sister Betrayed During Heart Surgery, became the emotional center of a case that exposed corruption in local real estate and banking. Emma's defense crumbled when her emails were presented in court. Messages spanning years revealed cold calculation, not desperate mistakes. Once she's under for surgery, we move, she'd written to Tyler. She'll be too weak to fight back, and Mom and Dad will keep her quiet like always. The judge's verdict was scathing. This court has seen many cases of fraud, but few display such calculated cruelty, she declared. To target your twin sister during life-saving surgery demonstrates a level of moral bankruptcy that cannot be overlooked. Emma got 15 years. Tyler, having cooperated, received 8. The investigation also led to the arrest of 3 bank officials who had helped them push through fraudulent sales and loans. My parents finally faced their role in enabling Emma's behavior. During victim impact statements, Mom broke down on the stand. I always thought I was protecting her, she sobbed, but I was helping her destroy herself and hurt everyone around her, especially her sister. Olivia, I am so sorry. Dad's testimony was shorter but equally powerful. I taught my daughters the wrong lesson, he admitted. I taught one that she could do no wrong, and the other that she should accept being wronged. I failed them both. Their acknowledgement meant something, but rebuilding our relationship would take time. They entered family therapy, finally confronting decades of destructive patterns. The restitution process revealed the true scope of Emma and Tyler's scheme. They had stolen millions through fraudulent property sales. The FBI froze accounts in 3 countries, recovering funds for multiple victims. My house was returned to me through a court order, but it felt different now. Susan helped me sage every room, symbolically clearing the negative energy. Detective Sandoval, who had become a friend, gifted me a state-of-the-art security system. Your sister's actions helped us crack open a massive property fraud ring, she told me over coffee on my restored porch. Because you stood up to her, dozens of other victims got justice too. Dr. Weber continued to be a powerful ally. He connected me with a nonprofit organization helping medical patients protect themselves from fraud during treatment. Soon, I was sharing my story at hospitals and support groups, helping others recognize warning signs I'd missed. The experience changed me in unexpected ways. I started a consulting business helping people verify property transactions and protect their assets during medical crises. My restored Victorian became more than just my home. It became a symbol of resilience and recovery. Susan and I turned my ground floor into a weekend meeting space for fraud survivors. Watching people share their stories in my living room, under the antique chandelier Emma had tried to steal, felt like poetic justice. You've turned poison into medicine, Dr. Weber said during one of our now regular dinner gatherings. Your sister tried to take your house, but instead you've made it a sanctuary for others who've been betrayed. The hardest moment came 6 months into Emma's sentence when she requested a meeting. I sat across from her in the prison visiting room, seeing the stranger wearing my face. "I've had time to think," she said, her once confident voice small. "I always resented how hard you worked for everything while I took shortcuts." The house became a symbol of everything I wasn't: patient, dedicated, honest. "That's why you waited until my surgery?" I asked. "Because you couldn't face me." She nodded, tears falling. "I told myself you'd recover, build something new. I had excuses for everything. But watching you in that hospital bed, knowing what I was doing, I'm not sure who I became." I left the prison with mixed emotions but stronger boundaries. Emma's recognition of her actions mattered, but it didn't erase them. Some twins share everything, but we would share only one thing now: a cautionary tale about choices and consequences. Today, my Victorian stands proudly restored, its history now including a chapter of betrayal and redemption. The garden Emma once mocked as a waste of time blooms with survivor roses, flowers that grow stronger after being cut back. My heart surgery scar has faded to a silver line, a reminder of both vulnerability and strength. The house she tried to steal has become a testament to resilience, its doors open to others healing from betrayal, its walls echoing with stories of survival. Sometimes, late at night, I sit in my window seat and reflect on how attempted destruction led to unexpected reconstruction of my home, my relationships, and myself. The twin who tried to take everything unknowingly gave me something precious: the power of my own voice and the strength to use it. My Victorian stands as proof that what others try to steal, we can reclaim. And sometimes we build it back even stronger. Those children have no place at a graduation ceremony. They'll ruin Emma's special day. My mother-in-law, Margaret, screeched, her face turning an alarming shade of red as she blocked the entrance to the university auditorium. My two kids, ages 6 and 8, clutched my hands tightly, shrinking behind me at her outburst. "My name is Olivia, and I never thought I'd be standing outside my sister-in-law's college graduation, publicly humiliated by my mother-in-law while other families streamed past us, giving us concerned looks." "Margaret, they're her niece and nephew," I said calmly, though my heart was racing. "They've been practicing sitting quietly, and they made cards to congratulate their Aunt Emma." "I don't care what they made," Margaret snapped, eyeing my children like they were wild animals. "This is a sophisticated ceremony. We have important family friends attending. I won't have them embarrassing us with their fidgeting and noise." I felt my son, Lucas, squeeze my hand tighter, and my daughter, Sophia's, eyes filled with tears. These were the same grandchildren Margaret had barely acknowledged since their birth, the ones she'd excluded from every family gathering with increasingly ridiculous excuses. "Their family," I insisted, meeting her gaze. "Your grandchildren." Margaret's laugh was cold. "Family? Please, just because my son made the mistake of marrying you doesn't make those kids worthy of our family events. Emma specifically said she doesn't want them here." That stung. Emma, my husband David's younger sister, had always followed her mother's lead in treating us like unwanted additions to their perfect family. The fact that she'd rather have her niece and nephew excluded from her graduation than risk them embarrassing her said everything about their family values. "That's not true, Mom," a voice called from behind Margaret. We turned to see Emma standing there in her graduation gown, her expression unreadable. "I never said I didn't want them here." Margaret's face flickered with panic before settling into a dismissive smile. "Honey, I'm just trying to protect your special day. You know how children can be. By making a scene in front of everyone?" Emma raised an eyebrow, glancing at the growing crowd of onlookers. "Real classy, Mom." I was surprised by Emma's intervention. In the 8 years I'd been married to David, she'd never once stood up to her mother, especially not in my defense. "Where's David?" Emma asked, looking around for her brother. "Parking the car," I replied. "He dropped us at the entrance because Lucas has a sprained ankle from soccer practice." Margaret seized on this immediately. "See, they're already causing problems. We'll have to delay everything because that boy can't walk properly." "That's enough." David's voice cut through her tirade as he joined us. My husband of 8 years looked at his mother with a mixture of disappointment and resignation. "Mom, we're all going inside now. As a family, if you make another scene, you'll be the one missing the ceremony." Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. This wasn't how she'd expected things to go. She'd counted on Emma backing her up, on David staying quiet as usual. Instead, her perfect plan to exclude us was falling apart. Fine, she spat, stepping aside. But when they ruin everything, don't say I didn't warn you. As we made our way to our seats, I noticed Emma lingering behind. She pulled something from her graduation gown, a small digital camera. I recorded everything, she whispered as she passed me. Mom's tantrum, or trying to ban my niece and nephew. I'm tired of her controlling every family event with her drama. I stared at her, stunned by this unexpected alliance. Emma gave me a small smile. Maybe it's time someone showed everyone who really ruins family gatherings. Little did Margaret know, her very public attempt to exclude her grandchildren was about to backfire spectacularly. The family photos wouldn't be the perfectly curated images she'd planned. They would tell a very different story, one that would force our entire family to confront the ugly truth she'd been hiding behind her sophisticated facade. As we settled into our seats, Lucas and Sophia sat perfectly still, just as they'd practiced. I caught Margaret's eye from across the aisle. She was already on her phone, probably complaining to her country club friends about her daughter's graduation being ruined by her son's unfortunate family. I smiled, knowing that soon everyone would see exactly who was really ruining family moments. But for now, we had a graduation to celebrate, and my children were going to show everyone just how well-behaved they could be. The ceremony was about to begin, and with it, a chain of events that would change our family dynamic forever. The graduation ceremony went perfectly. Despite Margaret's dire predictions, Lucas and Sophia sat quietly through the entire event, their eyes wide with excitement as they watched their Aunt Emma receive her diploma. They even remembered to wave their little handmade signs at exactly the right moment, making Emma beam with genuine pride. But Margaret wasn't about to let the day end without trying to maintain control. At the post-graduation reception, she orchestrated the perfect photo opportunity, gathering her elite circle of friends and their families for what she called appropriate family photos. Now let's get the family together, Margaret announced loudly, gesturing to her chosen group. Emma, darling, stand here with your cousins, Victoria and Elizabeth. I watched as she deliberately positioned everyone, conspicuously excluding us from the family pictures. Lucas tugged at my sleeve, his voice small but clear. Mom, why doesn't Grandma want us in the pictures? Before I could answer, Emma spoke up. Actually, Mom, I want Sophia and Lucas in these photos. They're my niece and nephew. Margaret's perfectly painted smile faltered. Honey, we want these photos to be perfect for the alumni newsletter. Let's keep it traditional. Traditional? Emma's voice carried across the reception area. You mean exclusive? Elitist? Because that's what this looks like, Mom. The gathered crowd grew quiet, watching the scene unfold. Margaret's friends exchanged uncomfortable glances as she tried to maintain her composure. Emma, dear, you're making a scene. No, Mom, you made a scene earlier when you tried to ban my brother's children from my graduation. And now you're doing it again. Emma pulled out her phone, tapping the screen a few times. In fact, let me show everyone exactly what happened. Margaret's face went pale as Emma held up her phone, the video from earlier playing clearly for everyone to see. There was Margaret in all her glory screaming about how my children would ruin everything, blocking their entry to the ceremony. Oh my, one of Margaret's friends gasped. Margaret, those are your grandchildren. Another friend stepped away from the group photo. I had no idea. Is this why we never see David's children at any of the club events? The carefully constructed image Margaret had maintained in her social circle was crumbling. Years of lies about why her grandchildren were never present at family functions were being exposed. They're perfectly well-behaved children, Emma continued, her voice firm. But our mother has spent years excluding them because she's ashamed of them. Ashamed that her son married someone who wasn't from her social circle. I felt David's hand slip into mine as we watched the scene unfold. Our children, still not fully understanding the situation, stood quietly beside us, proving with their very behavior how wrong Margaret's accusations had been. That's quite enough, Margaret snapped, her facade finally cracking. Emma, I've given you everything, the perfect graduation, the right connections. And this is how you repay me? By humiliating me in front of everyone? No, Mom, Emma replied calmly. You humiliated yourself, and I'm done pretending it's okay. She walked over to us, taking Lucas and Sophia by the hands. Come on, let's take a real family photo. One with all of us. As Emma posed with her niece and nephew, more people began gathering around, including several of Margaret's friends who had quietly slipped away from her group. The photographer she'd hired captured everything: the genuine smiles, the natural joy, and in the background, Margaret's increasingly isolated figure. "Send those to the alumni newsletter," Emma told the photographer with a smile. "Show them what a real family looks like." Margaret stood alone, watching as her carefully orchestrated photo session transformed into something entirely different. Her phone buzzed incessantly. The video of her earlier behavior was already circulating among her social circle. "I never thought she could be so cruel to children," I overheard one of her friends whisper. "Did you see how well behaved those kids were during the ceremony?" And she tried to ban them. The whispers grew, and with each one, Margaret's position in her social hierarchy visibly crumbled. The woman who had spent years orchestrating the perfect family image was watching it all fall apart, replaced by the truth she tried so hard to hide. As the reception continued, Margaret made one last attempt to salvage her reputation. She approached us, her voice sickly sweet. "Perhaps we could take just one photo together." For appearance's sake. Emma looked at her mother, then at her niece and nephew. "I think we've had enough of appearances, Mom. These photos are perfect just as they are." The day was ending, but the repercussions of Margaret's exposed behavior were just beginning. As we left the reception, I couldn't help but notice how many of her friends were already distancing themselves, their polite smiles replaced by genuine warmth toward my children. The family photos would indeed go public, but not in the way Margaret had planned. They would tell a story of authenticity over appearance, of love over social status, and of a family finally breaking free from the chains of pretense. And somewhere in the background of every photo, Margaret stood alone, finally facing the consequences of her years of cruel exclusion. The aftermath of Emma's graduation proved more significant than any of us could have imagined. Within days, the video of Margaret's attempt to ban her grandchildren had spread through her entire social circle. The carefully curated photos from the reception told their own story, one where the inappropriate grandchildren turned out to be the most well-behaved people there. A week after the graduation, Margaret's phone call came as no surprise. "This is all your fault," she hissed when I answered. "My friends at the country club are questioning my membership. The charity board is reconsidering my position because my values don't align with their family-first mission. You've ruined everything." "No, Margaret," I replied calmly. "You did this to yourself. 8 years of excluding your grandchildren, of treating them like they were somehow lesser than your real family, it finally caught up with you." "They're discussing it at the next board meeting," she continued as if she hadn't heard me. "They're going to vote on my position. You have to tell them it was all a misunderstanding." I couldn't help but laugh. "A misunderstanding? Which part? The video of you screaming at your grandchildren, or the years of excluding them from family events?" The silence on the other end was telling. What surprised us most was Emma's continued support. She sent us the professional photos from the graduation, beautiful shots of Lucas and Sophia with their aunt, their genuine smiles lighting up every frame. Even more surprising was the note she attached. "I'm sorry it took me so long to stand up to Mom. These kids deserve better from their aunt. I hope it's not too late to be part of their lives." David, my usually quiet husband, finally found his voice in all this. He scheduled a family meeting without Margaret, where he apologized to our children for not standing up for them sooner. "You are perfect exactly as you are," he told them, his voice thick with emotion. "And I'm sorry I ever let anyone make you feel otherwise." The real change came 3 weeks after the graduation. Margaret's social circle, the one she'd worked so hard to impress, began reaching out to us directly. They invited us, specifically including Lucas and Sophia, to their family events. The children were asked to join summer activities they'd previously been excluded from. Every invitation felt like a small victory. Margaret's position on the charity board was indeed put to a vote. When she called to tell us she'd been asked to step down, her voice was different, smaller, almost reflective. "I don't suppose," she said hesitantly, "I could have a chance to get to know them properly this time." I looked at my children playing quietly in the garden. "That's not up to me," I replied. "You'll have to ask them. And this time, you'll have to earn their trust." Emma hosted a small family dinner a month later. Margaret came, subdued and uncertain. She watched as Lucas proudly showed everyone his latest art project and as Sophia demonstrated her new gymnastics routine. For the first time, she saw them as they were, not as interruptions to her perfect image, but as children worthy of love and attention. "They're quite remarkable," she whispered to me during dinner, watching them use their best manners. "I've missed so much." "Yes," I agreed simply. "You have." The photos from Emma's graduation still make regular appearances on social media, not the staged ones Margaret had planned, but the real ones. Emma with her niece and nephew, the three of them laughing at something Lucas had said. They tell the story of family finding its way back to what matters. Margaret's journey to redemption is slow, marked by small steps and occasional setbacks. She's learning that real family values aren't about perfect photos or social status. They're about love, acceptance, and the courage to admit when you've been wrong. Lucas and Sophia are teaching her these lessons, showing her what she missed with their endless capacity for forgiveness and joy. They've even started calling her grandma again, though the title now comes with expectations of earned trust rather than assumed authority. As for Emma, she's become the aunt she always should have been. Weekend visits, impromptu ice cream trips, and genuine interest in her niece and nephew's lives have become the norm. The graduation ceremony that Margaret feared would be ruined became instead the catalyst for healing our broken family. The family photos did go public, but not in the way Margaret had feared. They showed a family choosing authenticity over appearance, love over social status, and truth over pretense. They told the story of a grandmother learning that real family values can't be photographed. They have to be lived. And somewhere in our family album, there's a new photo, one of Margaret sitting on the floor with Lucas and Sophia, helping them build a Lego castle. Her perfect outfit is slightly rumpled, but her smile finally reaches her eyes. It's not the image she spent years trying to create, but it's real, and in the end, that's what matters most. Get your kids out of here. They're stealing all the attention. My sister-in-law Amanda's scream cut through the cheerful baby shower chatter, leaving the room in stunned silence. My daughters, Emma and Lily, ages 8 and 6, froze midway through helping arrange the gift table, their little hands still holding the carefully wrapped presents they had been organizing. My name is Julia, and I never thought I'd see my sister-in-law publicly melt down over my children simply being themselves. But here we were, in her expensively decorated living room, surrounded by 30 shocked guests, watching her completely lose control. "I mean it, Julia. This is my day. My baby shower. And your perfect little princesses are making everything about them." Amanda's face was red, her hands shaking as she pointed at my girls. "Everyone's talking about how cute they are, how helpful they are. I can't take it anymore." I looked at my daughters, dressed in the simple sundresses they had picked out themselves, their dark curls neatly braided. They weren't doing anything wrong. They had just been quietly helping set up, the way they always did at family gatherings. My mother-in-law had asked them to help arrange the presents, and they had been doing so with care and enthusiasm. "Amanda," I said calmly, moving to stand between her and my children, "they're just helping with the gifts. That's all." "That's all," she laughed bitterly. "Did you hear Mrs. Peterson going on about how well-mannered they are? And Mrs. Roberts asking if they take etiquette classes? They're making my future baby look bad already." The absurdity of her statement, comparing her unborn baby to my children, might have been funny if it weren't so concerning. I could see Emma and Lily shrinking behind me, confused and hurt by their aunt's outburst. "Mandy, honey," my mother-in-law, Sarah, stepped forward. "You're being ridiculous." "The girls are just." "Don't tell me I'm being ridiculous." Amanda cut her off. "This is exactly what she does, bringing those perfect little dolls to every family event, making everyone else look bad." "Well, not today. This is my special day." I felt a small hand slip into mine and looked down to see Lily's eyes welling with tears. That was it. I could tolerate Amanda's jealousy when it was directed at me, but seeing my daughter cry crossed the line. "Girls," I said softly, "go get your coats. We're leaving." "Yes, get out," Amanda shouted, "and take your little show ponies with you." The room erupted in murmurs of disapproval. I saw Amanda's friends exchanging uncomfortable glances, while the family members present looked mortified. My mother-in-law started to protest, but I shook my head slightly. There was no salvaging this situation. As we walked to the door, Emma turned back and placed the small gift bag she had been holding on the side table. "We made you something for the baby, Aunt Amanda," she said quietly. I hope your baby likes it. The simple dignity in my daughter's voice made several guests tear up. Even Amanda seemed taken aback for a moment, though she quickly masked it with another scowl. In the car, I took a deep breath before turning to face my girls. I'm so proud of how you both handled that, I said, my heart aching at their confused expressions. Mommy, Lily asked, her voice small, did we do something wrong? No, sweetheart. Sometimes they have big feelings that make them act in ways they shouldn't. This wasn't about you at all. Emma, always the more perceptive one, spoke up. Aunt Amanda was mad because people were being nice to us instead of only talking about her baby. I nodded, impressed by her understanding. Something like that. But that doesn't make it right. As we drove home, my phone started buzzing with messages from the shower guests. Mrs. Peterson, a prominent member of the local charity board, was particularly upset. The way those girls handled themselves, such grace. And that handmade gift they mentioned. Please tell them they're always welcome at our community events. More messages followed, each expressing shock at Amanda's behavior and admiration for my daughter's composure. But it was Emma's quiet voice from the backseat that really caught my attention. Mom, I have an idea. Remember how we were going to help with the baby's nursery next week? What if we did something else instead? I glanced in the rearview mirror, intrigued by the thoughtful expression on her face. What are you thinking, sweetie? Well, she shared a look with her sister, who nodded encouragingly. What if we showed Aunt Amanda that we don't have to be there to do something nice? As Emma explained her plan, I couldn't help but smile. My children, who had every right to be hurt and angry, were instead thinking of ways to extend kindness. In that moment, I realized that maybe they really were too perfect for Amanda's insecurities to handle. Little did Amanda know, my daughter's response to her cruelty would soon leave her speechless and give the baby shower guests something to talk about for years to come. The next morning, I woke up to find Emma and Lily already at the kitchen table, surrounded by colored paper, markers, and craft supplies. They were whispering excitedly, stopping only when they noticed me. Mom. Emma quickly covered their work with her arms. Don't look yet. It's a surprise. Over breakfast, my phone kept buzzing with messages from the baby shower guests. Amanda's outburst had apparently sparked quite the controversy in our small community. Mrs. Roberts, who ran the local women's club, called personally. Julia, I want you to know that several of us left right after you did, she said, her voice firm. That kind of behavior toward children is simply unacceptable. And to think those sweet girls still left a gift. I glanced at my daughters, still engrossed in their secret project. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. The girls are actually working on something special right now. Of course they are, she chuckled. Those two never let negativity stop them, do they? Later that morning, Emma finally revealed their plan. They wanted to create a welcome baby book for their future cousin, filled with drawings, advice from kids their age, and little notes of encouragement. But they didn't want to do it alone. Can we ask our friends from school to help? Lily asked, bouncing with excitement. Like a big community project. I hesitated, worried about drawing more attention and potentially making things worse with Amanda. But looking at their eager faces, I realized they weren't trying to show up their aunt. They genuinely wanted to do something nice for their cousin. Okay, I agreed, but let's keep it simple. Simple, as it turned out, wasn't in the cards. When Emma mentioned their idea at school on Monday, it took on a life of its own. Their classmates were excited to contribute, then their parents heard about it, and suddenly, the project became much bigger than we had anticipated. Mrs. Peterson, who'd been at the shower, offered to help coordinate through her charity network. Let the community show what real kindness looks like, she said with a meaningful look. Within days, contributions started pouring in. Children from both girls' classes made drawings and wrote messages. The local bookstore offered to professionally bind the book. The art teacher helped organize the layouts. Even the school principal contributed a letter about the importance of family. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, Sarah, called with updates about Amanda. She's been crying off and on, she sighed. Says nobody understands how hard this is for her, being compared to your girls all the time. I tried to tell her she's the only one making comparisons, but she paused. The girl's gift bag is still sitting unopened on her table. I felt a twinge of sadness for Amanda, even after everything. The girls are working on something special for the baby, I said carefully. I hope she'll be in a better place to receive it when it's done. Their what? Sarah's voice cracked, even after how she treated them. It was their idea, I replied, watching Emma and Lily at the dining room table, carefully sorting through the latest batch of contributions. They said every baby deserves to feel welcomed. There was a long silence on the other end. Those girls of yours, Sarah finally said, they're something else. The project took on unexpected dimensions. A local photographer offered to take pictures of all the children who contributed, creating a visual community welcome for the baby. The owner of the craft store donated supplies for kids to make personal pages. Even the retirement home got involved, with grandparents writing letters of wisdom for the new baby. One evening, as I helped the girls organize everything, Lily looked up at me with serious eyes. Mom, do you think Aunt Amanda will be mad again? Because lots of people are helping. I pulled her into a hug. Honey, this isn't about Aunt Amanda anymore. This is about welcoming your new cousin with love. Sometimes that's all we can do, respond to anger with kindness and hope it makes a difference. Emma nodded wisely, and even if she is mad, the baby will know lots of people care. As the project neared completion, word got back to Amanda through family channels. Her reaction, according to my mother-in-law, was unexpected silence. No angry outbursts, no accusations, just quiet contemplation as she finally opened the original gift bag from the shower, finding the handmade matching bracelets the girls had crafted for her and the baby. What we didn't know then was that Amanda's silence wasn't just contemplation. It was the calm before a storm none of us saw coming. The girls' project was about to reveal something that would change our family dynamics forever and force Amanda to confront the real reason behind her behavior. As we put the finishing touches on the community baby book, I couldn't help but feel proud of my daughters. They had turned a moment of rejection into an opportunity to bring people together, proving that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's showing grace in the face of unkindness. But nothing could prepare us for what happened when we finally delivered the finished project to Amanda's house. The finished book was beautiful, a thick, professionally bound volume filled with colorful artwork, heartfelt messages, and photographs from across the community. When we arrived at Amanda's house, my mother-in-law was already there, having insisted on being present for the delivery. Emma carried the book while Lily held a small basket of baby essentials, both girls unusually quiet as we approached the door. Before we could knock, Amanda opened it, her eyes red and puffy. I saw you pull up, she said softly, so different from her shower outburst that I almost didn't recognize her voice. Come in. The living room was exactly as we'd left it after the shower, decorations still hanging limply from the walls. But something was different. Spread across the coffee table were dozens of photos and newspaper clippings. I need to show you something, Amanda said, gesturing to the table. After what happened, I finally opened your girl's gift. Those matching bracelets. She touched her wrist, where she was wearing one of them. They made me remember these. The photos showed a young Amanda with another little girl, both wearing similar friendship bracelets. They were beaming in every shot, clearly inseparable. That's my sister, Amanda's voice cracked. Sophie, she died when we were kids, in a car accident. She was perfect, just like your girls. Always kind, always thinking of others. Everyone loved her. Emma and Lily moved closer, looking at the photos with genuine interest. When I saw how everyone responded to your daughters at the shower, Amanda continued, wiping her eyes, it brought everything back. Sophie was exactly like them at that age, and I was the difficult sister, the one who could never measure up. Understanding dawned on me. All this time, Amanda's hostility hadn't really been about my daughters. They had simply triggered deeper wounds she'd never dealt with. The whole time I've been pregnant, she admitted, I've been terrified. What if my baby is like I was? What if everyone compares them to your girls, the way they used to compare me to Sophie? Emma stepped forward, still holding the community book. But Aunt Amanda, being different isn't bad. Look at what we made. As Amanda opened the book, her hands trembling, she found not just children's artwork, but a community's worth of love and acceptance. Each page carried messages about uniqueness, about how every baby is special in their own way. We asked everyone to write about what makes them different, Lily explained proudly, because that's what makes people interesting. Amanda's tears fell onto the pages as she read message after message. The local librarian wrote about being shy as a child but finding her voice through books. A retired teacher shared how she overcame a learning disability to help other struggling students. Even a school principal contributed a story about being the difficult child who grew up to nurture other challenging kids. You see, Emma said, with the wisdom only children seem to possess, your baby doesn't have to be like anyone else. They just have to be themselves. Amanda broke down completely then, pulling both girls into a hug. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I've been so awful to you both. I was so caught up in my own past that I couldn't see what amazing nieces I had. My mother-in-law, who had been quietly watching, finally spoke up. Maybe this baby is your chance to heal, Mandy, to give them what you needed, acceptance for exactly who they are. Over the next hour, Amanda shared more about Sophie, showing the girls pictures and telling stories. For the first time, I saw her not as my difficult sister-in-law, but as someone who carried deep pain for far too long. As we prepared to leave, Amanda stopped us. Wait, she said, reaching for something behind the couch. It was a bag from an expensive baby boutique. I got these last week. I was too ashamed to give them to you. Inside were 2 best cousin ever t-shirts, sized perfectly for Emma and Lily. I thought maybe we could start over. Amanda asked hesitantly. I'd really like my baby to have cousins like you. The girls immediately put on their shirts, beaming with the kind of forgiveness that only children can offer so freely. As we drove home, I realized that sometimes the biggest gifts come wrapped in the hardest packages. My daughter's response to unkindness had not only helped heal old wounds, but had also brought our community together in unexpected ways. 3 months later, when Amanda's daughter was born, she named her Stuffy. The community baby book sits in a place of honor in the nursery, a reminder that every child is perfect exactly as they are, and that sometimes, the very things that trigger our deepest pains can also lead to our greatest healing. I don't want them there, Jessica. They'll embarrass us in front of everyone. My mother-in-law's voice crackled through the phone, each word hitting me like a physical blow. The twins, they're just not appropriate for such an elegant event. I stood in my kitchen, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles turned white, staring at the handmade anniversary card my 8-year-old twins had spent hours creating. Emma and Ethan had poured their hearts into it, carefully writing each letter despite their physical challenges. Marie, they're your grandchildren, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. They've been looking forward to your 40th anniversary party for weeks. Looking forward to it? She scoffed. They can barely walk properly. Do you know how it would look to have them wobbling around the country club? My friends from the charity board will be there. I have a reputation to maintain. My name is Jessica, and at 35, I've spent the last 8 years fighting for my twins' right to exist in spaces where people like my mother-in-law think they don't belong. Emma and Ethan were born with cerebral palsy. While their minds are sharp as tacks, their bodies don't always cooperate. Every step is a victory. Every clearly spoken word is a triumph. Besides, Marie continued, her voice dripping with fake concern, it's really for their own good. All those people staring, judging. It would be cruel to subject them to that. I thought about my children's faces when they helped me pick out their special outfits for the party. Emma had chosen a purple dress to match her grandmother's favorite color. Ethan had insisted on wearing a bow tie, practicing for hours in front of the mirror to tie it himself. What about Michael? I asked, mentioning my husband. What does he think about this? Oh, Michael agrees with me, Marie said quickly, too quickly. He understands the importance of appearances. You can come, of course. Just find a sitter for the twins. I closed my eyes, remembering all the times Marie had excluded my children. The family photos they were mysteriously absent from. The holiday gatherings where they were relegated to a separate table for the kids, despite being the only children present. I'll talk to Michael about this, I said finally. There's nothing to discuss, Marie snapped. The invitations have been revised. I'll have them sent out tomorrow. After she hung up, I sank into a kitchen chair, my hands shaking. The twins were at physical therapy with Michael, blissfully unaware that their grandmother was systematically trying to erase them from family history. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lisa, my sister-in-law. Unlike Marie, she'd always been supportive of the twins, often standing up to her mother's discrimination. She did what? Lisa's voice rose in outrage when I told her. That's it. I've had enough of Mom's elitist garbage. Give me an hour. True to her word, Lisa called back exactly 1 hour later. Check your email, she said, a note of satisfaction in her voice. Remember last month when Mom was bragging about her charity board position at the Disability Foundation? I opened my laptop, clicking on the new email. Inside was a video from the foundation's annual gala 3 months ago. Marie stood at a podium, tears in her eyes as she spoke about her beloved grandchildren and how they'd opened her heart to the challenges faced by disabled children. She used the twins to get that position. Lisa explained. Played the devoted grandmother card. The foundation's main donor was impressed by her personal connection to the cause. Keep watching. The video continued, showing Marie accepting a substantial check for the foundation, spouting platitudes about inclusion and acceptance. My stomach turned. The anniversary party, Lisa continued, is being held at the country club because the foundation is covering half the cost. They want to honor her work with disabled children. There's supposed to be a surprise presentation. I sat back, the pieces falling into place. She's been using my children to build her reputation while simultaneously hiding them away. Exactly. But here's the thing. The foundation's director, Mrs. Anderson, is a close friend of mine. She's been wanting to meet the twins for months. Marie keeps making excuses. A plan began forming in my mind. Lisa, can you get me Mrs. Anderson's number? Already sent it to you. And Jess, make her regret this. After hanging up, I looked at the handmade anniversary card again. Emma had drawn hearts all around the edges, while Ethan had written, "We love you, Grandma," in his careful, shaky handwriting. They'd worked on it for days, determined to make it perfect. I picked up my phone and dialed Mrs. Anderson's number. She answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Anderson, this is Jessica Chen, Marie Mitchell's daughter-in-law. I think there's something you should know about my children's relationship with their grandmother." By the time Michael brought the twins home from therapy, I had everything in place. He found me in the kitchen, starting dinner. "Mom called," he said, hovering in the doorway. Something about the party invitations being revised. I turned to face him, noting the guilt in his expression. "Did she tell you why?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Jess, you know how she gets. Maybe it would be easier if." "If what?" I interrupted. "If we hide our children away? Pretend they don't exist so your mother can maintain her perfect image. That's not fair." "No, it's not fair. None of this is fair. But I'm done letting her shame our children." I told him about the video, about how his mother had used our children to secure her position while simultaneously excluding them from family events. His face darkened with each word. "She's gone too far," he said finally. "What do you want to do?" I smiled, checking my phone as a text from Mrs. Anderson came through. "Nothing. We're going to let your mother dig her own grave. But keep your phone on tonight. You won't want to miss what happens at midnight." The twins rolled into the kitchen in their wheelchairs, chattering excitedly about their therapy progress. Emma had managed to take 10 steps unassisted, while Ethan had mastered a new grip technique. "Can we practice our dance for Grandma's party?" Emma asked, her eyes shining with hope. I shared a look with Michael before turning to our children. "Of course you can, sweetheart. In fact, I think Grandma is going to be very surprised by your performance." As I watched them practice their wheelchair waltz, something they'd been working on for weeks as a surprise for the anniversary party, I knew Marie's midnight wake-up call would be one she'd never forget. I couldn't sleep that night, watching the clock inch toward midnight. The twins were tucked in bed, their dance outfits carefully laid out for tomorrow's practice session. Michael sat beside me in the living room, both of us staring at our phones. At exactly midnight, my phone lit up with a text from Mrs. Anderson. "It's done." Seconds later, Marie's number flashed on Michael's screen. He put it on speaker. "Michael." Her voice was shrill, panicked. "Turn on channel 7 right now. Someone's trying to destroy me." We already had the TV on, watching as the local news station aired its midnight special report. The headline scrolled across the bottom. "Local charity board member accused of discrimination against disabled grandchildren." The broadcast played the video from the foundation gala, followed by audio recordings of Marie's phone calls, not just to me, but to others, revealing a pattern of discrimination. The reporter's voice was appropriately somber as she detailed how Marie Mitchell, board member of the Disability Inclusion Foundation, had systematically excluded her own disabled grandchildren from family events while using their story to advance her social standing. "How did they get those recordings?" Marie demanded. "This is slander. I'll sue them." No, Mom, Michael said quietly. You won't. Because everything they're showing is true, isn't it? I was protecting our family's reputation. You don't understand what it's like, having to explain to people why your grandchildren can't walk properly, why they need those awful wheelchairs. Those awful wheelchairs help my children move independently, I cut in. They're not an embarrassment, they're tools that give Emma and Ethan freedom. Jessica. Mary spat my name like it was poison. You did this, didn't you? You vindictive little. Mrs. Mitchell. A new voice joined the call. This is Patricia Anderson from the Disability Inclusion Foundation. I think we need to discuss your position on the board. The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia. Marie's voice switched to her sugar-sweet social tone. This is all a misunderstanding. If you let me explain. Save it, Marie. I've seen the evidence. The Foundation's mission is to promote inclusion and acceptance. Your treatment of your own grandchildren goes against everything we stand for. The board will be meeting tomorrow morning to discuss your removal. But the anniversary party, Marie protested. The Foundation is sponsoring. Not anymore, Mrs. Anderson said firmly. However, we would love to redirect that sponsorship to a special celebration honoring your grandchildren's achievements. I understand Emma and Ethan have been preparing a wheelchair dance performance. I could practically hear Marie deflating. A wheelchair dance, she whispered. Yes, I said. They've been practicing for weeks. They wanted to surprise you, to show you how far they've come. But I guess that doesn't fit with your perfect image, does it? The line went dead. Michael looked at me, a mix of emotions playing across his face. The party's tomorrow night, he said. What do you think she'll do? Probably try to cancel it, I replied. But Lisa and Mrs. Anderson have already contacted all the guests. They know the truth now. The question is, what are we going to do? Michael reached for my hand. We're going to that party. All of us. It's time Mom learned that family means accepting people as they are, not as she wants them to be. The next morning brought a flurry of calls and texts. Marie had indeed tried to cancel the party, only to learn that the country club was now hosting an inclusion celebration sponsored by the Foundation. Lisa had worked through the night, transforming the event from a traditional anniversary party into something far more meaningful. Emma and Ethan were ecstatic when we told them the party was still on. Can we still do our dance, Mommy? Emma asked, her eyes wide with hope. Of course, sweetheart. In fact, you're going to be the stars of the show. We spent the morning getting ready. Emma twirled in her purple dress, while Ethan finally mastered his bow tie. Their wheelchairs had been decorated with twinkling lights, transforming them from medical equipment into magical carriages. As we pulled up to the country club, I saw Marie and my father-in-law standing at the entrance. She was wearing her planned anniversary outfit, but her usual confident posture was nowhere to be seen. Instead, she looked small, defeated. The twins are here, someone announced as we approached. A crowd gathered, led by Mrs. Anderson herself. Emma, Ethan, she called out warmly. Your Aunt Lisa has told me so much about you. I hear you've prepared a special dance for tonight. The twins beamed with pride, all their practice sessions finally having a purpose. Marie watched silently as Mrs. Anderson knelt between their wheelchairs, genuinely engaging them in conversation about their dance and therapy progress. My father-in-law stepped forward, tears in his eyes. Unlike Marie, he had always shown love to the twins, though he had never stood up to his wife's discrimination. Until now. Marie, he said, his voice carrying in the sudden quiet. These are our grandchildren. It's time you saw them for who they are, not what you think they should be. The crowd parted as Emma and Ethan rolled forward, stopping in front of their grandmother. Emma reached into her wheelchair pocket and pulled out the handmade card they had created. Happy anniversary, Grandma, she said softly. We made this for you. Mary's hands trembled as she took the card. She opened it, reading the careful handwriting, tracing the lovingly drawn hearts. For the first time, I saw her perfect facade crack completely. I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I've been so wrong. The party transformed into something far more meaningful than a simple anniversary celebration. Emma and Ethan's wheelchair dance became the highlight of the evening, their practiced movements drawing both tears and applause from the guests. They spun and twirled, their decorated wheelchairs catching the light, proving that disability didn't mean inability. Mary sat in the front row, her perfectly composed mask completely shattered. She watched her grandchildren perform with new eyes, perhaps finally seeing them as they truly were, not burdens or embarrassments, but children full of life, love, and determination. After their performance, Mrs. Anderson took the microphone. "Tonight was supposed to be about honoring a long marriage," she began. "But instead, it's become about something even more important, learning to open our hearts and minds to the beauty in our differences." She turned to Marie. "Mrs. Mitchell, your position on our board was meant to represent acceptance and understanding. While recent events have shown us that wasn't the case, tonight has given us hope that people can change and that love can overcome prejudice." Marie stood slowly, her hands shaking as she approached the microphone. The room fell silent. "I spent so many years worried about appearances," she said, her voice trembling. "About what others would think. In doing so, I missed what was right in front of me, the courage, the determination, and the pure joy my grandchildren bring to this world." She turned to Emma and Ethan. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I promise to spend every day trying to be the grandmother you deserve." Emma rolled forward, taking her grandmother's hand. "We love you, Grandma," she said simply. "That's why we wanted to dance for you." The following weeks brought real change. Marie resigned from the Foundation's board, but not before working with Mrs. Anderson to establish a new program supporting families with disabled children. She threw herself into learning about cerebral palsy, attending the twins' therapy sessions, and truly understanding their challenges and triumphs. One afternoon, I found her sitting with Emma, patiently helping her practice her writing. The same handwriting she had once criticized as messy and inappropriate was now a source of pride as Emma carefully formed each letter. "Look, Grandma," Emma exclaimed, holding up her work. "I wrote your name." Marie hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes. "It's beautiful, sweetheart, just like you." Ethan experienced a similar transformation in his relationship with his grandmother. Marie learned to celebrate his achievements, like when he managed to stand unassisted for 30 seconds, with genuine enthusiasm rather than forced politeness. The country club, once a source of shame for Marie, became a regular meeting spot for a support group she helped organize for families with disabled children. The same friends she had once been so desperate to impress now joined her in advocating for better accessibility and understanding. 6 months after the party, we held another celebration, this time for the twins' 9th birthday. Marie insisted on hosting it at the country club, complete with wheelchair-accessible games and activities for all the guests. As I watched her interact with Emma and Ethan, helping them blow out their candles and open presents, Lisa came to stand beside me. "Quite a change, isn't it?" she said, smiling. "Who would have thought that midnight news report would lead to this?" I nodded, remembering the panic in Marie's voice that night. Sometimes people need a wake-up call to see their own prejudices. "You know," Lisa added, "Mom told me yesterday that those therapy sessions she's been attending, they're not just about understanding the twins. She's working through her own issues, confronting why she was so focused on appearances." The party wound down as evening approached. Emma and Ethan were surrounded by friends, both wheelchair users and non-wheelchair users, all playing together without a hint of the discrimination their grandmother had once feared. Marie approached me as I was packing up decorations. "Jessica," she said softly, "I know I can never fully make up for how I treated them, how I treated you. But thank you for not giving up on me, for giving me the chance to learn and grow." I hugged her, something I hadn't done in years. "That's what family does," I replied. "We give each other chances to be better." As we drove home that evening, Emma and Ethan chattered excitedly about their party. I caught Michael's eye. He smiled, reaching for my hand. "You know," he said, "when you planned that midnight revelation, I was worried it would destroy our family. Instead, it made us stronger." Looking in the rearview mirror at our children, their faces glowing with happiness, their wheelchairs decorated with birthday streamers, I knew he was right. Sometimes it takes a moment of complete breakdown to build something better, stronger, and more beautiful than before. Mary's journey from rejection to acceptance wasn't just about learning to love her grandchildren as they were. It was about understanding that family isn't about perfect appearances or meeting societal expectations. It's about love, acceptance, and the willingness to grow and change together. The twins still have their challenges, but now they face them with their grandmother's genuine support and understanding. And every time I see Marie patiently helping them practice their exercises or proudly showing off their achievements to her friends, I'm reminded that it's never too late to open your heart and change your perspective. Sometimes the hardest call to make is the one that forces people to confront their own prejudices. But as our family learned, it can also be the most important call of all.